Welcome to the Ozark Hobby Adventurist. I'm Ken, and today we're going to talk about Project Barrage 10. That's an ECX Doomsday Barrage converted into a pretty awesome 110 scale short wheelbase trail rig, rock climber, whatever you really want to do with it. So originally it started out looking like this, and it was kind of cool for a moment, but then like all the plastic stuff on here adds weight and makes it top heavy, and that had to go. So the body went to this, and this is the body that we had used for a while for rollovers, actually off of a Losi JRX or JRT two-wheel drive, but I did use the roll bar. But there comes a time when everything gets replaced, and so that brings us to here. This is Scrappy, and the reason I call him Scrappy is because I knew right off the bat that there were going to be some major changes going on in Scrappy's life. This, my friends, is the ultimate Barrage Creek Warrior. This thing's fantastic, and you notice that I'm still using the stock wheels on here as well. I'm going to go to a little bit taller tire to try to gain some more of the ground clearance I had before, but when I do that, I'm also going to affect my center of gravity. Now, the last time we had done anything on the Barrage, we put SC10 axles underneath it. Well, some changes were made, and whereas before we used the stock ECX 4 links, these were a set that I had to shorten so I could keep my wheelbase in with the body of the vehicle. So this is an SC10 part. This is the ECX part. You'll notice that when I line these up, you've got some extra room down here. So you're going to have to literally, if you don't unbolt your cross braces in the front and the back, you are literally going to have to loosen the screws and pull this frame apart in order to get this in there. Now on the SC10 there is a multiple amount of screws. I think there's what, 2 more screws here, where for this all I had to do is drill the hole out just a smidge bigger, and these screws fit right in there. So there's actually 4 screws holding the whole tranny 4-link system to the frame, where it would take, I think it's 8 for the stock SC10. So we tried to use these constant velocity axles, or drive shafts I mean, and they had a lot of vibration to them. I think I had them maxed out as far as angle wise, which is kind of funny because it's not really, shouldn't be maxing anything out at that angle. So I went back with the universal joints, and as you can see, I got a couple that are about to go on vacation. And once again, here's the axle difference between the two, and we went over changing all that stuff out in the first video. The main reason I wanted to get rid of the axles was because, I don't know if you can see it, that's a pretty round hole, and it's not really supposed to be that round. It's supposed to have like a little oblong looking shape to it, kind of like that, but not so much of an oblong. And so these are like really teeny tiny compared to what's in here. So this takes you from about 2.71 gear ratio. Putting these axles in gives you a 3.31, I think it was. So now, oh yeah, hang on a minute. This is the motor it had, and this is the motor that's replacing it. Oh yeah, horsepower upgrade, beautiful. So yeah, this is a little teeny tiny tranny. I'll set it off over there to the side. Let's see here. Alright, we're gonna get to this body. This body is one of the Chinese import bodies, and people are always asking, well, how do you mount one? That's easy. Any way you can. There's no right, there's no wrong. You might want Velcro, you might want magnets, you might want body post. It doesn't matter. Just stop and take some time to think about what you're doing before you do it. It's better to test fit something 20 times and make one cut and it be right than to test fit it once, do a gross cut, and then find out you've wasted your time. And I'll show you some of the cool little details here on this body. First thing I want to do is I want to show you exactly how the body works on here. Inside, I don't know if you can see it, you can see the little light shining through the holes. That's the top of the shock mount. Don't know if I can get a good shot of that. It's kind of down in there. So as you can see right here, there's just a little bit of a gap between my shock and my body. And I'm talking just a little bit of a gap, not much. And then I have Velcro. Come on, light, work with me. There we go. I've got Velcro on the body, and then I made me a T-mount, sort of a L bracket looking thing across the back, and it runs all the way across the back. Got 3 screws holding it in. Pretty sturdy. And it's still as tight as it was a while ago. Okay. Now, I made it to where it tilts forward to make it easy to get to the batteries. So I can hold this up with one arm. I can pull this out, unhook my other battery wire. Boom. I can take and put that in there. Stick that in there. I could hook my 2 wires back up, shazam, and it's ready to go. All I gotta do is make sure everything's lined up, and then my body mounts snap up against the front of the seat, and then you reach up underneath here and you can squeeze your Velcro, and that makes it strong enough that you can pick it up by the roof rack. And basically the only thing holding it together is the Velcro and the rear shock mounts. So in order to get this thing apart, on the front bumper come on, where'd you go? There you are. Okay. On the front bumper came way out to here, and so it interfered with turning in a very severe way. So we whacked it off right here, and there's a little piece of plastic that protrudes out with one screw from the back side that holds all this on. These were the screws that held this part on, so to speak. And so we decided that since the holes were already there, they needed to be filled with something. I originally let these Allen head screws go down into the hole, the little recess that's right here, and they fit perfect, nice and snug. Couldn't see them, but they looked like they needed to be there for some reason. But it took a hard impact and busted these out. So what I did is I took a piece of styrene tubing and cut it really short, made like a filler piece, if you would, and then put a washer and then ran it into, believe it or not, I'm using servo mounts for this part of the mounting to the body. And I'll show you how everything else goes together here in just a second. And it makes it easy if you have to remove the body. All you gotta do is 2 screws. It makes it pretty simple. Okay, there's my little washer spacer that I made. And I kind of like showing you guys how the repair is done, because too many guys will be like, oh, this is how the repair is done, and then they don't show you anything, and you probably needed to know something. Okay, there's the other one. Ta-da! Okay. Here's what we're getting down to. Now, I've got a lot of modifications to go, and I have a lot of things to take care of to kind of take up some of the slop. Some of my screws aren't what I really need, so I need to order a few parts here and there. The firewall comes down, about right here, so you have to cut a hole in the body for this to have enough clearance to set as low on the body as mine. And these actually stick up through the floorboard about that much. This is actually what's clipping on the front of the seat to help hold it in place. And then of course I got my Velcro on my little plate there. A little easier to see. Just a scrap piece of plastic. It's got a little flexibility to it. I don't like anything to be too firmly mounted because that's usually how you break stuff. I did take and put the speed controller and the receiver on the top of the steering servo, and that's just temporary. Don't have a whole lot of compression before your steering link hits your frame. So that's a little issue that has to be kind of worked out a little bit, but we'll get that figured out eventually. Now for my front mount, you can see that this is a servo mount attached to an adjustable shock bracket. And all that does is hinges there a little bit. And so I got a little bit of slop this way, or a little bit of movement this way. Gives me a good hinging point that allows for the frame to flex as well without ripping the body mounts out of the plastic body. I think eventually, and I'll show you this when I get it all put together, right in here I'm probably going to make a battery pack for my lights. Okay, still using the stock shocks off the Himoto Tanto. They seem to work really good. I mean, this thing is very realistic as far as like weight displacement on the vehicle, and the way a Jeep would climb, this actually climbs a lot like one. So it's very, very scalish. Alrighty then. Now we're going to get to the body. This body here has awesome sauce poured all over it from the front to the back. It does. It's very, very durable. I really thought that I would have broken it already, And I mean, we've taken some hard tumbles, and you hear stuff pop and snap, and nothing's broke. I love the fact that the doors open and close. That is awesome. It has been trashed and bashed unintentionally because it weighs so much. It makes your vehicle top heavy, which means you kind of have to relearn what you already know. And so it makes it kind of tough, but it does add enough weight to it that if it gets traction, it'll just pretty much keep right on rolling. Let's see here. All the wiring runs around the inside. Up in here, up inside the roll bar, around and down here, and then for temporary, I've just got a big wadded knot up underneath here. Have to replace that tape. And since we're down here, we'll go over some of the modifications that I had to make. Okay, we have 3 sections that we had to cut out. Back here for the shock towers to go through. So if you didn't want your shock towers to go through, you probably have to set this thing up about yay much farther. But with the God, I love this. With the transmission set in this position, this being forward, every time you jump on the gas really, really, really hard, it will want to pick up the right front wheel. And I like it because it's very realistic. I'm leaving it like that. I don't want to rearrange stuff because that means I got to cut more holes. So, as you can see here, of course the angles of the camera are not going to work with me real well. I had to cut out a section here in the firewall for clearance for this. Wasn't that bad, except for the fact that I had to also trim the center console down a little bit, and I also had to trim the interior lower part of the dashboard. What I did is I left just enough between the console and dashboard that they actually touch, but just a little bit. If you can get, my light's not the greatest, that aggravates me, but there's just like a little smidge of plastic in there so that this console here in the middle and that this console here in the middle are just touching by maybe like not even 1/8 of an inch. And then that leaves a little hole here that if you wanted to do something like get a piece of plastic and stick in there and fill that in, or say like a piece of tire inner tube, you know, your options are limitless. Duct tape is your friend. Duct tape. Check out them seat covers. Oh yes, I love my seat covers. Those things are awesome. Dun ta da. Absolutely. And it's so awesome. Now you're gonna see where I got my wiring stashed. I even did the top of the center console lid so it all matched. So you can play with some duct tape, custom do your interior a little bit. Pretty easy. All you need is like a really sharp hobby knife. Alright, now as we're putting all this together, knowing that changes are going to be made, and like I said, I haven't got to my engineering my battery for the back yet. Here are my lights. Awesome, right? Got them all wired into one plug. What I did is I found me a 4 AA battery holder and soldered me a switch that had a plug at the end of it so that I could test my lights. Since I didn't know where I wanted to put my battery, I made everything a little bit longer, and that way if I need to shorten it I can, because sometimes it's a little easier to shorten than it is to lengthen. But looking forward to getting some cool accessories for it. The roof rack was pretty simple. It's actually not designed for this. I believe it's designed for the D40, and so it was a little bit short. Well, they don't give you a whole lot of thread on the end of the mount. It's just enough it'll go through Lexan in one thin little piece. And so what I did is the parts that I had to take off of here, it was a little black trim piece. Sorry for the interruption, forgot to turn my phone off. The trim that was used to cover up this, you know, so it looked like your little sun visor on the inside, I trimmed them down and made a little mount, and man, that's really durable as hell. It's been absolutely wonderful. I did manage to lose a light cover and a lens. That's the way it goes. And now I know you're gonna wonder how in the world you can make your own CB antennas. Well, I tell you what, offer one of your local musicians $1 for an old used string. Maybe he'll give you one for free, and if he saves the string and makes it really long, you can get about 3 CB antennas out of 1 guitar string. But you want the biggest strings, because the littlest ones don't work. They don't look very accurate. And I'll show you how I did this. Since I am experimenting and I don't know exactly where I'm going with this whole project, I took zip ties, 2 of them, and I drilled me a hole and put my zip ties through it, pulled them almost tight, then put my string in there, and got the wobble. Looks pretty cool. So this just sits down, bottoms out, and actually it's pretty tight in there. It's kind of amazing, but that's need to cut that at, I think it's 10.5, 11 inches. I think that comes out to be like a 102-inch whip with a 6-inch ball on it, or a 6-inch spring. And I'm working on some cool ideas to make a 102-inch whip antenna with the 6-inch spring on a ball mount. And as soon as I get that figured out, I'm gonna let you guys know, because I know you're gonna eat that one up. Oh, my screwdrivers are finally starting to wear out. After many trusty years of service. So there you go. There's pretty much the gist of everything. I did, like I said, my wiring's kind of messy, and it has been used, as you can tell by the dirt. So hopefully this will help out whoever wants to use one of these little hard bodies and put them on their barrage. But if you do, my suggestion is go ahead and swap the axles out, because you're going to need the low end gearing to keep the thing moving. If you put a 540 can motor in something like this, because of the short wheelbase, you have center of gravity transfer is very fast. So it'll flip over without a problem going around a turn. So you might want to turn it down a little bit. Other than that, I think that just might be all for today. If you have any questions, you can let us know on Ozark Hobby Adventurist Facebook, or leave us a message on YouTube. Hopefully this helps you out. Man, I have a blast with this thing every time I take it out. I can't wait to get the tires I want for it. They're just a little ways down the road. But until then, thanks for watching. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. And maybe, just maybe, you'll meet Scrappy on a rock somewhere.